What is a case of instant karma you witnessed? Was buying some drinks at a Circle K one day while visiting someone in Florida, and these old tourists cut us in line, all the while complaining and beaching loudly about everything. How expensive everything is, how crowded the beach is, it's too hot, etc. They are also really rude to the cashier and take forever arguing about the price of the hot dogs they were buying or something. They leave, and as we walk out we witness a seagull come and snatch the guy's hot dog right out of his hand. His wife then shrieks and proceeds to drop hers out of surprise. I know it isn't that big of a deal, but it was so freaking hilarious watching that happening that I still remember it 5 years later. I was waiting at a red light to cross the main street of my town. My light goes green, so I start driving. At the same time a truck to my right starts going. I hit my brakes to avoid hitting him, and this kid is looking at me like I'm the asshole. As soon as hair's clear, I finish crossing, and I see light starts flashing. He ran the red while being directly in front of a cop. Happened while visiting New York. I watched someone bend down to pick up a wallet someone ahead of them had just dropped. All of this was going down in the crosswalk, and I was in the passenger seat with my dad driving. Guy who picked up the wallet began run it to guy B who was already across the street, and while doing so, his wallet fell out of his pocket and on the sidewalk/crosswalk area. Some shooty dude in the bike lane rode up a little ways ahead, bent down and picked it up and just started heading off. Just grabbed it and began to ride away like a bunch of cars hadn't just watched him. My dad was about to say something when a cop car adjacent to us swerved in front of Cycler and made him give it back. Cycler bumped into the cop car and was trying to go around when he was tackled. I think they might have arrested him, but he like changed, so we couldn't stick around. Coolest instant karma I've ever seen. We were driving home late from work one night, both bartenders, maybe midnight. We live in a small community, and we were at the 1/4 mile section that goes from 55 to 45 to 35 to 25. A giant lifted truck decided that he wanted to continue going 55. He was up our ass, brights on, so close you couldn't even see his bumper. It was like his lights were in our car. Pretty much 2 seconds after one of us said, "Where's a cop?" when you need one, a deputy passed us going the opposite direction and immediately flipped a beach and pulled him over. Still gives me the warm fuzzies. FCK that guy. My wife was jogging and a man starts driving slow and catcalling her. Doesn't realize it's a red light and rear ends a truck, totally destroying his Prius. Cop was stopped at the same red light and saw the whole situation. Cop laughed and asked my wife to fill out a witness statement. Edit. It was a busy street, so when I say driving slow, I mean he slowed down while passing her. Probably hit the lady in the truck doing about 35 in a 50. Drunk guy at the bar started yelling at the bartender for cutting him off. Called her beach and horse multiple times, and then tried to scoot his bar stool back. Instead it caught on the carpet and he fell backwards like a tree falling. It made a very audible thud and of course, everyone stops what they're doing to look. He laid there for a minute, got up and stumbled to the door as everyone continued to stare at him. Definitely never saw him again. A guy kicked a dog and ran full speed into a brick wall as the dog chased him. My uncle tried to kick the cat, missed, kicked a brick wall instead, broke 2 toes, and almost lost them because he refused to do anything about it, and gangrene set in. A different uncle almost lost his hand after a cat bit him while he was trying to drug it to put it in a crate. Bite got infected, hand swelled up, and they couldn't get the swelling or his fever down. Saw some lady road raging hard at slow traffic going over a dangerous mountain pass. She was trying to run people off the road trying to get around them. I've never seen anything like it. She cold killed someone. Saw her getting forcefully arrested by like 6 cops at the bottom of the mountain on the other side. Face pinned to hood and screaming. Saw a guy yelling at another guy in traffic. The guy that was yelling continued to speed off and got pulled over by an undercover cop car on the side of the road. Watched an entitled angry man abuse and belittle his server to the point of tears. Then he hitched up his belt and looked pleased with himself as he swaggered off the restaurant deck, tripped on the stairs, and face planted in the sand on the beach. This was a vacation in Flab. My wife looked mortified as I laughed right out loud at the guy. He got up, saw everyone staring, and at least one person openly laughing, and quick stepped off down the beach. I was riding the bus to school once. As it is picking up kids, some guy passes the bus while the bus red lights are flashing. A cop literally turns the corner the second after and pulls him over. I work at a movie theater. One afternoon I was selling tickets at the box office when an older lady came up and asked me a question about our app. It's a Cinemark app. I, however, wasn't sure about the answer and told her that. She proceeded to say, very rudely, "Isn't it your job to know? Are you stupid or something?" Then, she turned around and noticed the mall cop was writing her a ticket for parking in a handicap spot when she did not have a handicap plate or placard. She took off running screaming, "Wait, stop. That's my car." I couldn't keep the huge grin off my face for the rest of the day. One day a few years ago I was grabbing McDonald's near work to eat something last second before my shift. It was one of those 2-lane microphone deals. I blatantly finish ordering before the other lane, before he stomps on the gas to cut me off. His car breaks down right there, and I get to take my rightful turn in line. Not 100% instant karma, but pretty quickly. See, I work for a staffing agency. I'm a recruiter. Pretty small team, and this was actually another recruiter on my team that this happened to. My coworker was working with this guy who was pretty sharp. He was a programmer. His company was doing layoffs, but he was told he wouldn't be affected. My coworker contacted him, chatted about the situation, and he said he would be interested in looking around. We just had a new client give us a position to help on that fit his background. We lined up an interview pretty quickly. He interviewed and got the position. Great. It was even a little salary bump. Straight direct hire, no contract stuff. He goes in, works his first week. All is great, all smiles. Well, that next Monday shows up, and he isn't there. The company calls us asking where he is, so my coworker calls him. He answers the phone and my coworker asks, "Hey, is everything okay? Call no show today over at Z's company." And the guy proceeds to tell us, "Yeah, I never actually quit my job. I just took vacation for the week to see if I like the place. It was okay, but I'll just stay here." My coworker responds, "Man, is there anything I can do? This puts us in a tight spot. This is a brand new customer of ours. Can I do anything?" And the guy tells us, "Quite frankly, I don't give a shoot what kind of position it puts you in, nor do I care if they are a new customer. I'm staying. Don't call me again." And hangs up the phone. He got laid off the next week. The washers and dryers in my apartment building are run through Bluetooth and an app you download on your phone. I figured out that if I put my phone on airplane mode while simultaneously pressing the start button on the machine, the washer would start, but I wouldn't get charged. I was so proud. Tried the same thing on the dryer and it worked. Went to get my clothes out of the dryer an hour later and everything was covered in melted Hershey Kisses. In DC, guy sped right past me in the K Street tunnel towards Georgetown, cut me off, and then got rung up by a speed camera just seconds later. He then proceeded to floor it after the first camera caught him, and promptly got caught by the trick speed camera not even a half block further just before the light. I'm not generally a fan of DC's speed cameras, but seeing his brake lights blast red after getting lit up by not just 2, but 4 successive flash bulbs was gratifying. I was waiting in queue at Burger King. While I was looking at the menu board, a bunch of high school kids of some team sport cut my queue. It was like 15 of them, and like they grouped up and around and slowly went in front of me when I wasn't looking. I gave an annoyed look, but just waited in line. A cashier opened his counter and called for me, and I got right in front of all of them even before the lady in charge of that sports team who was waiting on the other counter. Worked after school care for school age kids. There was this one kid who was pretty obnoxious and got under everyone's skin. One day I see him walk into the room just needling another kid. He ends his provoking with a Nelson from The Simpsons haha, spins around, and face plants on the ground. The kid he was provoking gave him a haha back and walked off. Obnoxious kid gets up, dusts himself off, and humbly slinks away, and is pretty quiet for the rest of the day. We were driving on a very icy 35 mph limit road in a 4WD car after one of the first big snowstorms of the winter. We're doing // 25 miles per hour, which is about as fast as we feel we can push it, given the ice sheet over everything, since the snow melted to slush and refroze overnight. We've been driving in snow/ice our whole lives. We know what'll work and what is risky, and conditions are bad. All other traffic is basically moving at our speed or even slower. A shiny new lifted red Dodge pickup pulls up behind us, tailgating, revving his engine, etc. Basically everything is screaming big man, and his big truck doesn't need to be held up by some shooty car that can't handle the snow. We hit a straight section and give him an easy chance to pass us. He takes it and quickly accelerates to / 40, which would be the typical speed for the road in the summer. About 400 feet beyond us, the road takes a moderate curve left. He tries to turn, but it's a solid sheet of ice. The truck just goes straight into a parked car and guardrail, right in front of a dozen or so witnesses. We coast past at / 25, making the turn without issue. His front end was pretty smashed up, maybe not totaled, but I'd be amazed if he could drive it to the shop. I hit my girlfriend in the forehead with a spinning fidget spinner. She chased me. I jumped on my bed, and my ceiling fan smacked the living out of me. She was on the floor laughing for a solid 5 minutes. I'm a firm believer in karma now. Or maybe just idiocy on my part. I was at an all good festival once, and there was one of those dudes who was just pureed. You know, shouting insults, screaming, throwing shit at people, just an animal. He was slightly uphill from a main intersection, only maybe 30 feet from the crowd. I was standing around waiting for a friend. The dude's campsite was total bullshit, with some poorly planned tarp city thing held up by a nylon rope that was strung over a pickup truck and secured by slamming a car door shut on it. Suddenly, the guy throws his beer at the crowd, crawls up on top of the car, and starts tight roping it between the car and the truck. I was very impressed that he made it at least 2 steps before the rope slipped a few inches in the car door. The asshole guy spread his legs, and he dropped 3 feet straight onto the suspended rope. I have never in my life seen a guy rack his balls so hard. In a fetal position, he spun around the rope in slow motion until he was upside down. Then the rope scraped across the roof of the truck, fell between the cab and the bed, partially collapsed the tarp city, and dropped the asshole a couple more feet onto his head in the mud. The asshole got up, shut up, looked a little embarrassed, and limped away as his infuriated friends boiled out of their home. Was on a road trip last week. Guy in the left lane was slowly passing a truck, so there were about 5 of us stacked up patiently waiting for the logjam to clear. Jerk in a Mercedes brakes ranks into the right lane, speeds ahead, and tries to cut in to save himself 3 car lengths of trouble. All cars band together to not let him in. He almost ran the car behind me off the road and nearly sideswiped him before taking his rightful place in the back. Well, he was pissed after that and was tailgating and in general driving like an asshole. He eventually sped off well over 100 miles per hour. Saw him about 20 minutes later pulled over by a state trooper. Laughed my ass off as I passed his candy ass. Where I live has gotten really bad about people cutting off and doing this kind of shoot. I leave ample following space, but I've heard people dart out right as I'm about to pass and then slam on their brakes because there's a car in front of me. At this point, I report people if I can do it easily or remember the number for reckless drivers. What's worse is people cutting me off and then flipping me off. The other day I had kind of a funny one, though. I was about to get on the highway and this guy started honking at me the second the light turned green, so I did the worst thing I could and went about the speed limit, maybe 5 under, while merging onto the highway. Dude was furious. When I got on the highway I went to normal speed, but he flew past me and damn near punched his wife in the face trying to flip me off before cutting me off. I have a happy good karma story that happened to me a few months ago on vacation in San Francisco. Late at night after a potluck and drinks, my friend drove me to a BART metro station near her house and gave me directions to take the train back to my hotel. I walked in, paid my fare, and went underground, only to find out it just missed the last train. Fortunately my friend was awesome and gave me bus directions back, but there was another person who'd missed the same train, and he was in a far worse situation than mine. He was drunk, high, carrying massive bags of groceries and alcohol, and was trying to get back to Richmond, the way I came from and super far away. He also had no way to call an Uber. Feeling bad, I offered to call him an Uber, and he could pay me back what he could. He only had $3, but so be it. I wasn't going to turn him down. We chatted a while until his ride came. He went off on his merry, inebriated way, and I went to catch my bus. Except when I got on, I realized it was a minibus, the other transit company, and so my BART fare wasn't transferable. I'd have to pay again. I realized I had no dollar bills left in my wallet. I spent it all on that useless fare. Panicking, I reached into my back pocket where I keep small change, well knowing I didn't have enough for the $2.50 fare. And that's when I felt the $3 that guy gave me. It was such a beautiful feeling. I think we were mutual guardian angels that night. Also I realized halfway through the bus ride that I was going the wrong way, but that ruins the story, so I don't usually tell that part. I did manage to get back on the other side, to be fair. I liked going to the local fruit stand near my old job before work. It's a small family owned and run place. A little kid was working the register and accidentally gave me back more than I gave them. I give back the money and correct the mistake, insisting it happens, and to not worry about it, him not telling nobody. The kid must have told her kinfolk about 2 weeks later, and I didn't pay for fruit for the next month, until I got another job. Karma works both ways. Helping my brother move out of his act after grad school. In parking garage trying to reposition the car, to load up the TV or something. Some girl wants to get past us, so I start backing up, but she's crowding me, like inches from my bumper. Anyway, she gets past, and we load up. As we leave the parking lot, she's in the middle of the street having T-boned someone. Felt bad for the poor person she hit. Stated dating a girl a few months back and her ex was being just a huge asshole to her, threatening to fight me if he saw me, trying to start rumors, etc. Went out for drinks with the girlfriend, and, of course, he shows up, starts to get in my face at the bar, and gets kicked out. Rushes the door guy to get back in, and is carried out, and banned from that bar for life. Then I had another genius thought. What if I could do this at the bar next door? Question mark? It's a smallish town. There are really only 2 bars worth going to for nightlife, and they're right next door to each other. So, we go next door. He's waiting outside for me, but there's the usual don't do it bro friends around him, so I make it next door without having to fight. Of course he comes in, starts his act and actually tries to fight me this time. He gets pulled off by a few people, and is also kicked out of that bar for at least a while. Fight with your brain, not your fists. A girl in school used to tease everyone and just be generally annoying. She was tossing this stress ball around and aimed it at this one kid's head. Someone yelled look out at him, and so he looked up, saw the ball coming at him, and put up his hands in self-defense. It bounced off his arms and back at the girl and hit her right in the mouth. It was a soft squishy stress ball so it didn't hurt her, but we all openly laughed at her and her surprised expression, so she sat down quietly from embarrassment. She still kept being annoying, but she stopped throwing things at people's heads.